in very short terms, we're focused on redefining, rethinking the nature and the practices of international, of interdisciplinary, and of cross-sector collaborations, especially those in the service of development. So from the very beginning of the network, which has been ongoing since about 2016, we recognize the context that we sit in, which from a few of us here in today is in the global north, a context that extracts natural and human and economic resources to a greater extent than we give in these partnerships. We sit in a context which is a world where sustainability is in crisis, due primarily to overconsumption in rich countries. We live in a context of increasing vulnerabilities, both environmentally and socially. And so we ask, how can we do things differently? Sitting on a known history of hundreds of years of increasing global morality and global mobility, how can we rethink and reimagine our partnerships and our collaborations and our good intentions to shift the futures, to reimagine different types of futures? And that's really the common ground that collects together a very, very diverse network of people that began across the UK, Uganda, Botswana, and Nigeria. It began with about 16 colleagues and collaborators across those countries. And now in 2020, we are 6 countries with lots of affiliate countries in addition, and over 60 members. We now work also with hubs in Eswatini and Malawi in Africa, as well as broadly across Scotland. So we're going to focus on this idea of partnership, what it means, and the background to this resource that we are presenting based upon today is conversations that we have had many, many times with people outside of our network and outside of our networks around things that can be horrifying to watch, things that can be superficial, things that can go wrong, things that can hurt and harm. And we were seeing that around us and thought, instead of critiquing, let's actually put some of what we consider best practices and principles together across, as I've said, a very diverse and wide network of people and disciplines and contexts and experiences, and put something out there to put into conversation with people and audiences like this. And so we have this critical resource. We like to think it's accessible, relatively brief, and digital, which is very important this year. And we're going to pick up on 2 specific aspects of that. And I'm going to hand over to Joe to flesh that out a little bit. We're then going to hand it over to you. So we're going to try and have group discussions, either one big group or small groups if we can manage it, to get your responses. But I see before that, we're going to have a short clip, a video that has been put together by our colleagues at ArtGlow. We have Helen, Sharon and Lakoti here in our audience that have put together a short video to demonstrate and play around with some of the issues that we were responding to. So we will have the video as well as an introduction from Joe before we hand over to this group for discussion. And hopefully we'll be able to come back together as a larger group to debrief before we move you off to your virtual coffee break. Thank you. Joe.
Thanks very much, Mia, and thanks for this opportunity to talk about this work. And as Mia said, this emerged from some of our discomfort of our own experiences in working in partnerships of different sorts. And we had a really excellent week of discussion and learning and thinking through some of these ideas with partners from across the Sustainable Futures in Africa network. And part of that was talking through some of our expectations about partnership, thinking about some of the power relationships that lie behind some of the assumptions that we make going into partnerships. Some of these were very obvious to some of the participants. Others came, I think, as more of a surprise and led us all, I think, in different ways to reflect upon our own practice. So I have 1,000 copies of this sitting in my office. They arrived just before lockdown, and so I haven't been able to circulate it, but we've made it available on the website as well, and please do go and download it if you're interested. And it's designed to be a provocation, designed to be something that can be used in discussion, and to maybe to help to reveal some of the things that different partners are assuming. Can we go to the next slide, please? We ended up working together and coming up with a number of what we considered to be the key themes in partnership, and there was a lot of overlap. And it took us quite a long time to sort of disentangle some of the different ideas, but really one of the starting points is of positionality. And again, to many of the participants, this was obvious and almost too obvious to mention. But others recounted how not being aware of the different positions that people were coming from, the different expectations and the different institutional locations became problematic. And so we raised a variety of questions here, provocations about the potential implications of not reflecting on where people are coming from. We can't just pretend that those differences aren't there, but they have to be discussed. So we say here to engage across contexts already deeply entrenched in cultural, historical and economic hierarchies, power dynamics need to be recognised and interrogated. And so we list in the next page the complex accountabilities that we all have to negotiate. Sorry, it wasn't not the next slide, but the next page that we're not, sorry, it's very confusing. We have to negotiate the demands of the principal investigator, the expectations of the funders, the priorities of various different government organizations that we are accountable to, priorities of different countries, even things such as the responsibilities to future generations. So it's vital to, we felt that this was to help us be transparent, open and honest about some of these things. And now if we can go on to the next slide, thank you. Clearly, another issue that kept coming up in discussion about being significant and important is money. And for many of us, this is the most difficult thing to talk about. It's something that is such an opportunity because it allows us to do things, but can become an obstacle in terms of how it's distributed. We can't ignore questions of finance, but it's something that often becomes difficult to manage in projects. There are different priorities, different expectations. The kind of things that we were discussing was some partners' frustrations at different cultural expectations about money, about having a per diem culture, for example, in some places, which is problematic to account for in other systems. At the same time, there's issues where very different salary levels mean that there's very differential flows of money that can end up reinforcing the very hierarchies that some of our work might want to challenge. And so again, we sat together thinking about the kind of key things, and I've included here a few provocations to try and to help us think through the issues that need to be addressed right at the beginning of projects so that partnerships can develop equitably. So there's a variety of different graphics and texts and provocations throughout this little booklet, and I hope you will have a look at it at some point and hope you might find it useful for discussions. Bia, is there anything else that you want to add there?
No, that's great. I think it's just maybe worthwhile noting that unfortunately, we don't know who the 63 people here in the group are, but just to note that although Joe and I speak from the context of academic institutions, the authorship of this resource came about across our network, so from people across sectors. And you'll see that the video we're about to watch has been authored and performed by ArtGlow, an arts-based civil society organization. And I think that it's very important to know the interrelations between these players, these stakeholders in the international development related work that we do. So regardless of where you sit in this bigger picture, I'd like to think that you can all ask yourself these questions from your perspective, both the positionality questions, who do we think we are, both institutionally, personally, culturally, geographically, as well as these financial questions. from all sorts of different positions. However, we did have to be quite clear about the fact that our audiences for this resource were primarily people in places like the UK and Scotland and the global north. And I think that it's okay to say that a lot of our network members and co-authors of this resource are really, really comfortable in being part of the ownership of this resource, but not necessarily comfortable having a conversation or hosting a meeting with a group of strangers from the global north about these very, very sensitive and central issues. So we're trying to find spaces and ways to represent quite tricky and complex dynamics that we're only just touching the surface of really understanding, and yet we see the implications. You just look out the window, you see the implications of what they can do when they go right and wrong. So based on that, let's look. Thank you so much to Helen, Lakoti, and Sharon from the Art and Global Health Center in Malawi for putting this together. Let's see a 9-minute video, and then we'll come back together and we're going to break out into groups to discuss some of these issues, hopefully provoked by the video that we're about to watch. I don't think I need to introduce it anymore. I think that it'll make itself clear.
Hi, so it's so great to finally meet you both after all these webinars, emails, etc. Sharon, I've heard great things about the work that your NGO is doing. Lakodi, nice to connect with another academic. And yeah, good to be in Malawi and finally able to get started.
Lovely to meet you too, Helen, and Dr. Magombo. It's an honor for me finally to meet you. I've seen your work that you've published, and yeah, you really inspire.
Nice to meet you too, Sharon.
Yes.
Yes, and Helen, it's good to connect with you.
Okay. Yeah, so we're here, as you all know, for the Critical and Radical Approaches to Participation project. So this is a framework that I've been working on for some time, and I'm really excited to work with you to get it trialled in Malawi. So I'm here for a week, and I've got a schedule here that I was thinking of. So if we could maybe have the first 3 days here, looking at the model, getting everyone's input, really making sure that it's appropriate for the local context, and then get out into the field in the communities that I know you've been working in for the last couple of days.
So essentially Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we are having this conversation, and then over the weekend we go into the field.
Yeah, or like Friday, Saturday, yeah.
I cannot do, I have other classes I need to lecture on Wednesdays and Thursday afternoon. So I guess what we can do is you two can go ahead those times, and then I will join you later in the field.
Okay, I was hoping that you'd be able to be there for the whole time, but okay.
Another time, yes.
Yeah, and I also wanted to ask, I think we didn't go in details about what exactly the participants in one community that we're working on, like what exactly are they teaching?
So yeah, we're really trying to move away from the kind of model of dependency in these projects. And I've seen there's a lot of locally grown fruits around here. We're also trying to encourage healthy lifestyles. So I was thinking we could bring some fruits along, that kind of thing.
No, as I mentioned that time when we were being introduced, I said a lot of participants here in Malawi, like they want some type of incentive if we want them to actually participate. And even with the fruits idea, like they have so many fruits around their houses, and the water. No, maybe if we give them something more for them to actively participate.
But we really want this to be a longer term intervention rather than something where they're just doing it for the short term incentives.
Yes, for sustainability, they need to move away from this post-colonial dependency on these socio-ecological and sustainable factors that are being created by the system that we have at hand. So I think the idea is good, yeah.
I just don't know how it's going to play out, but I guess I will try to give them a heads up that they're not really getting anything more, even though I highly doubt that we'll get the full participation that we really want from them. But I guess that's it.
And Okay, I think we can wrap up for now and then meet again tomorrow morning at 8:30. And yeah, I was wondering if either of you fancy coming for dinner tonight, maybe?
No, I can't make it. Have another engagement.
And I will have to confirm later on.
Okay, no problem. Anyway, great to meet you both.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.
Hi, love. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, Wi-Fi's a bit ropey. Yeah, I made it fine. The flight was all right. And yeah, the hotel's kind of one of those typical sterile kind of conference type hotels, but I guess it's comfortable enough. Yeah, I had the first meeting today and yeah, it was all right, I guess. I mean, I was hoping against hope for a little bit more engagement, really. Because yeah, it's been quite challenging trying to just coordinate over email and webinars, and I was hoping that actually meeting people face to face that we'd be able to feel like we're a bit more, you know, got a bit more of a spirit towards the goals of the project, but so far not as much as I was hoping. Yeah, I mean, I'd heard about that Dr. Magombo person, and yeah, to be honest, if we had a little bit more time, if it wasn't such a tight funding deadline, I might have tried to find someone else to work with, but he's kind of the go-to person and seems more preoccupied with other stuff. And then Sharon, I had really high hopes for, because when Kate put me in touch with her NGO, she was really impressed by the work that they're doing. But the impression I get from actually meeting her is that she's much more concerned about incentives for the NGO, incentives for the participants, you know, all that kind of thing. So yeah, it's going to be challenging for them to really recognise the potential of this approach for long-term transformation, I think. Yeah, I mean, I did invite them both for dinner, hoping that way I'd at least get to know them a bit more outside the meeting context, hopefully build a bit more rapport, but Magombo's not interested at all, and then Sharon was like, maybe, so, you know, I guess I'll just text her now and follow up and see if she's up for it, and then maybe I can just get to know her and her organisation a little bit more and build it up a bit. Okay. Yeah, no, it's true, at least if I get the work done, I'll be able to get something published and be that little step forward to the associate professorship. Okay. Cool, lots of love, bye.
This is very late. Huh? She comes here when we're talking during the webinars and the emails. It's like she made promises. But looking at what she's telling us from today's meeting, I don't know, honestly. I don't know if we're getting anything, because when I was agreeing to this partnership, this collaboration, I thought at least it would improve our organization so that we are able to actually demonstrate how we can show results and impact, and even maybe like improve our research skills. But no, she only wants us to do what she wants. And then the refreshments. She's telling the local people, she wants to tell the local people that all they are getting is just fruits and water, fruits that are around their houses, in their fields, mangoes. It's even mango season. It's all about dependency, it's all about being sustainable. Everyone, in one way or another, they're always dependent on each other. Even for her to come here, I'm sure she could find it from somewhere else. She's dependent on someone else. And then that professor, agreeing with that white lady. Doesn't he know that for people to fully participate, they need an incentive? Right? Now she wants us to go to dinner. Of course, the dinner would have been nice, but I have all these deadlines, this report, and this funding that I have to submit. Anyway, we'll see.
So, how did the meeting go?
Yeah, you mean with the guys? It was okay. You know, Helen, that woman, she's a handful.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, she clearly doesn't understand the context of where we live, so she's just applying whatever she thinks to everything. And then there's that woman from the organization.
Yeah.
Shannon something?
You mentioned
Yeah,
that.
she's Yeah, she doesn't know anything. This is way above her level. These guys really need me though. I don't know. I might just stick on, but I've got other projects that need me. So I don't really want to put so much effort into it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, so anyway, but I mean, it's my name on the paper this year, so at least there's that.
Yeah, it's a good bonus for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, then you should do it.
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you again, Art Glow team, who are all with us here today. So what we're going to do without too much more discussion is move into breakout groups.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I hope your discussions were good in your breakout rooms. I think we're just waiting for everyone to return.
I'm going to suggest that Vanessa and Joe and are we the three, who am I missing? And Zoe, maybe just try and summarize in 2 sentences each some of the key things. And I'm only suggesting this because we might be better able to improvise a cohesion across the session. So for example, I'll just start with trying to do this in 2 sentences. I think that we came into a common ground when we realized that this is a very, very multi-layered, complex situation that we're working in. So money, trust, partnership, funder, and that there is a lot of aspects of this that are ingrained beyond what we may have already thought of it was our job or our piece in this. And we had some interesting experiences of working across faith, culture, personal positionality, and then Kevin sort of narrated from the perspective of an African partner how this can feel in terms of it being almost a sort of sense of inevitability about the way things go in partnership. And then we did have some brief comments at the end around some of these pressures are lifted or shifted slightly with COVID because we are remote. Okay, that's it. Joe, Zoe, or Vanessa, do you think you could follow that lead and take 60 seconds to summarize?
If I can follow, because it follows on very well from what you've just said, we did talk more about the opportunities that our current situation has led us to, whilst recognizing all the pressures and dynamics from the video. That as you just said, that COVID has given back more autonomy to some of the communities, because the great white leader, I think is how Helen put it, couldn't make it there, and so where possible, and this is where we might need to put a bit more pressure on some of the funding organizations to allow a rejigging of money, but this does seem to have been happening, that there's an opportunity to recognize the autonomy and the expertise of local folk, and to allow them to set the agenda very much more because of more money, more resource going there, less resource on international travel. And although internet is expensive for many of our partners, it's a lot less expensive than international travel. So when those budgets can be realigned, then in fact, as today's meeting has demonstrated, we can have more input, more participation with partners from the South. If it had been normal times, it might just have been Mia, Vanessa, Zoe, and myself sitting here, rather than having a whole bunch of people from the SFA joining us as well. So a very optimistic group.
Great, that's what we need right now. Zoe and Vanessa.
Our group talked a great deal about power and possibility, a lot of the power dynamics that are illuminated by the critical resource, so across money, but especially across who's setting the agenda and who's setting aims. So people not necessarily being invested or able to make decisions about what projects or aid are there to do. On the plus side, we saw the current situation as offering some possibilities for working more sustainably in terms of less travel, and in a way putting more pressure on to enable people in different places to have the digital specifically capability to work in partnership internationally. So I put some more in the chat there, but it was we seemed split between potential and the dragging down of inequitable power relationships.
Yeah, thank you. Vanessa,
yeah, I'll wrap up quickly. Our groups could really relate with the videos and everything that has been said by you and Zoe and Joe was also mentioned in our breakout room. But maybe I'll share some kind of solutions that some members thought of regarding engagement and how to build partnerships. So it would be rather to have always meetings related to work and around a specific agenda. Some meetings could be arranged to build partnerships, so to build relations. So instead of having a face-to-face dinner with a partner when you're traveling or something like that, or an exchange about music or another informal conversation, this can also be done with Zoom or other digital platforms. So to embrace that as well and use that as tools to create those partnerships. And also we saw how the funding agencies have played a major role in shifting or influencing partnerships and can influence how it is practiced. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. Okay, so just to wrap up with for everybody, I think my last comment to us all, I'm speaking to myself too, is I think collectively we know a lot of these issues. We found it excruciating to watch that video because we recognize it. We come from lots of different in-depth experiences and expertise. So our challenge to you is, so what do we do about them? We know this is happening and it continues to happen. It is the norm. How do we actually, even in small or big ways, shift to a new sort of norm? And the last thing I would like to say, just please be in touch with us. We're a very open doors network. It's a real privilege to connect with so many different organizations and places today. So please look out for us. We have a very specific research project ongoing right now called Participatory Futures, where we're spending a year to try and analyze in depth some of these issues that we're talking about today through ethnographic and collaborative and digital now methods. So we would really love to hear from you and your experiences. And thank you again. A special thank you to Deepa, who I haven't mentioned myself in my group, Deepa Pulanatkil, who's my co-director of SFA, who's here somewhere. And enjoy the rest of the digital symposium.